Guys, welcome back to the channel. Here we are with another reaction. In this, we have British phone numbers are smarter than American ones. Here's why. I'm very intrigued. Before we dive in, y'all make sure y'all go check out Girl Gone London's channel. I have her channel link as well as this video link down in the description section. So go check out her channel and subscribe. She has amazing content. Before we dive in, also don't forget to subscribe, give it a thumbs up. And if you would like to support the channel by becoming a member, all you got to do is hit the join button to receive your exclusive benefits. Let's get to it.
This is a British phone number. And this is an American phone number. And this is an American phone number. I would say you've probably never thought too hard about phone numbers, but I know my audience and you probably have. Because they're not just phone numbers, they're kind of like mini codes, especially if you're in the UK. British phone numbers tell you way more than you might expect. Where the person is, what kind of phone they have, and roughly how much it might cost to call them. Compare that to the USA, where phone numbers are mostly just numbers. They'll connect your call, yes, but they don't give you much else. Want to know if you're calling a landline or a cell phone? You can. Wondering where that area code is really based? It might be right, or the person may have moved across the country. It's a much flatter and less descriptive system. In the US, phone numbers follow a very standard format, which looks like this. That's a 3-digit area code, a 3-digit exchange code, and a 4-digit subscriber number. This setup comes from something called the North American Numbering Plan, or NANP for short, if you need to know the shorthand for all of the conversations you'll have about phone numbers from here on out. It was put in place back in the 1940s by a company called AT&T. It was designed to serve a growing nation, and eventually other countries like Canada and some Caribbean nations jumped on board. Originally, the area code told you where someone lived. New York City was 212, Chicago was 312, Los Angeles was 213. And
exactly. Yeah, they would tell you exactly where you lived, but I think, like she said, you can move across country and still have that same phone. So I did. I moved like 12 hours away, and I still had my phone number the first year that I moved until I needed a new phone. I feel like so eventually, even if you move across country, you're gonna need a new phone. And well, I guess you don't really have to change your phone number, even if you need a new one.
Logic had to do with rotary phones. Cities with higher call volumes got area codes that were faster to dial. But today, that information has become almost meaningless thanks to something called number portability. You can keep your cell phone number no matter where you move. So someone with a 310 number, which was originally in California, might be living in Ohio or Texas. It doesn't matter. To make things more confusing, cell phone and landline numbers in the USA look exactly the same. There's no prefix that tells you whether you're calling a cell phone, a home phone, or a business line. Now let's jump across the Atlantic because British phone numbers do look a little strange to American eyes at first glance. They're longer, they're more varied, and they're a little bit inconsistent. But once you understand the logic behind them, they actually make a lot of sense.
I need to learn. I never really, I guess, thought too much about phone numbers, but when you think about the differences just between countries and even differences like this, like it's kind of interesting to see like how different countries operate and like how why what works for them works for them, and why what works for us.
Take this number for example. 020-7946-0958. That's a London landline. The 020 tells you that it's in London, but it goes deeper than that. The next chunk, 7946, is a local exchange, meaning a smaller slice of the city. So with just a glance, you know exactly what kind of number you're looking at and roughly where it's located. And it's not just London. British area codes vary in length depending on how densely populated the area is. Big cities like Manchester get shorter area codes, while more rural areas get longer ones. But here's where it gets really interesting. The first 2 digits of a UK phone number tell you what kind of number it is. 01 or 02 are geographic landlines. 03 is a non-geographic number. It's tied to a national rate like a business, a charity, or a government service. The prefix of 07 means you're calling a cell phone or mobile phone. Then you have 08, which is toll-free or special rate services like customer support, and 09, like premium rate numbers, so it could be like a voting line or a competition line. So if someone gives you a number starting with 07, you know...
That's really cool that y'all have all those things that you know from seeing a certain number what kind of phone you're being called from. Like, that's pretty dope. I gotta agree with that.
Oh, it's their cell phone number. And if they give you a number that starts with something like 020, you know you're calling a landline. So let's talk a little bit more about the history of how we got here. And we'll start in Britain for this one. In Britain, telecoms were treated as a public utility, sort of like the postal system or railways. For most of the 20th century, the UK's telephone network was state-owned and operated under something called the General Post Office, or GPO. Later, it was British Telecom, or BT, after it was split off in 1981. This meant that one central body controlled all of the infrastructure, the wires, the exchanges, the phones, the operators, and the numbering system. Because of this centralized control, the UK was able to take a more methodical and top-down approach to numbering. They could assign codes based on geography, plan capacity years in advance, and build in logic and structure because everything was under one umbrella. As telephone use grew in the 70s and 80s, BT realized they'd need to modernize the system to handle future demand, so they started tweaking things. One major shift was known as Phone Day, which took place on the 16th of April, 1995. This was the day when the UK added a 1 after the initial 0 in all geographic numbers. So for example, London's old 071 and 081 codes became 0171 and 0181. Then later they merged into the single 020 area code that we know today. Then came something with a great title. It was the big number change, and this happened in 2000. There was a huge reorganization of phone numbers across the UK aimed at solving number shortages and preparing for a future where cell phones, fax machines, pagers, and dial-up modems, for all of us, which is basically my entire channel that remember those, they're all going to need their own digits.
Wow, that's very, very interesting. Did we have to do that in the US? I was a kid in 2000. I was 5 years old. So I wouldn't remember how we figured out maybe like how to add cell phones in and what our strategy was. Do we have to do something like this? I don't know. I couldn't even remember my landline from growing up. That's crazy. Yeah.
And the result was a national numbering plan that can be a little bit fussy, but it's layered with meaning. Meanwhile, over in the US, things evolved pretty differently. From the beginning, the American telephone system was run by, you guessed it, private companies. AT&T and its famous Bell system ran a near total monopoly for most of the 20th century. But even though one company technically ran the show, America's sheer size and diversity forced them to build a decentralized system. So in 1947, AT&T introduced the North American Numbering Plan, NANP, a master plan to standardize phone numbers across the US. The goal was to replace an old system of named exchanges, which was like Pennsylvania 5000. They needed something more machine-friendly and scalable. So the first area codes were assigned to big cities. You got to start somewhere. And for a while, their new system worked beautifully. But then things got a little messy. As population boomed and demand exploded, especially in the cell phone era, the US had to start overlaying new area codes onto old ones. And because number portability was introduced in the late 1990s, people could move between cities or states and keep their number. The system, which was initially rooted in geography, became increasingly detached from place. And what's more, US regulators never created distinct prefixes for different types of numbers. Cell phones, landlines, and even fax machines all use the same exact structure.
I said we ain't got time for all that. They said we'll do your caller ID and tell you who's calling you. But we ain't got time to figure out if they calling you from a landline, from a toll free, from a cell phone. We'll tell you who it is. That's a let you do the rest.
Which might sound simple, and it kind of is, but it also removes a lot of the helpful metadata that you get with UK numbers. And as we've talked about, in the UK, cell phone numbers always start with 07. It's incredibly easy to recognize whether you're contacting someone on their cell phone. And we've talked about the different types of prefixes in the UK, but in the US, toll-free numbers do look different. They use area codes like 800, 888, or 877, but beyond that, there isn't much guidance in the number itself. So what does this all mean? Put simply, British phone numbers are a little bit like road maps, while American numbers are more like plain street addresses. It doesn't mean the US system is necessarily worse, it's just designed for a different kind of telecom environment. It's optimized for a huge country with hundreds of millions of users and multiple carriers, but it does mean that US phone numbers aren't nearly as informative as their British counterparts. Now that brings me to the end of this video. I hope you learned something new today. As always, thanks very much for watching, and I'll see you next time.
Oh, that was a very interesting video, seeing the differences between the two countries and why phone numbers are what they are. Y'all talk to me in the comment section. Please let me know what you thought about it. If you enjoyed, don't forget to subscribe, give the video a thumbs up, check out the next. I'll see y'all next time.